Okay, folks, section 5.12. This is our last one that we're covering in this chapter, and it's some good stuff today. Now, look, just before we get started on this example, I'm going to drop it down here. I want to talk about this equation that I'm going to put up here. Let's just say that I've got a box times a box, and when I multiply those two things, I get 0. Okay. Now, what I know is that if either of them are 0, then it's true, okay? So if this is 0 and that's 7, then that's a true statement, okay? If I let this be 51 and that's 0, then that's a true statement. So if either one of these things are 0, then this is true. I've solved it, okay? Now, let's go down, knowing that, let's go down here and look at this example. Okay, I'm going to move it up just a little bit, but now, again, here's our boxes. This one and this one. They're being multiplied and they equal 0. Okay, now remember what I said. If either one of them equals 0, then the statement's true. Well, let's look at the first one, x plus 2. What makes it 0? Okay, well, if we subtract 2 from both sides, we get when x equals -2, that makes this thing 0. So this is a solution, okay? Well, what makes this one 0? X minus 5. When does it equal 0? Well, add 5 to both sides. If x is equal to 5, then this thing equals 0. So these are the two solutions. If x equals -2 or 5, then this is a true statement. So our solution is x equals -2, 5. That's it. Nice and easy. So you can see why when we factor a quadratic, it makes it easier for us to solve a quadratic equation. Okay? Now let's look at the next example. Okay, now in the next example, this actually isn't a quadratic equation. It's called a cubic. Because if we multiplied it out, we'd get n cubed. Look, there's an n here, an n here, and an n there. So that's 3 n's, okay? But we need, so what that means is we need to look at each one. If this one is 0, it's true. If this one is 0, it's true. If this one is 0, then it's true. So there are going to be 3 solutions to this equation, okay? Well, when does 5n equal 0? Well, divide both sides by 5, and when n equals 0, okay? So that's one solution. When does n minus 3 equal 0? Well, add 3 to both sides, and when n is equal to 3, that's another solution. Because if n equaled 3, this one would equal 0, and if any one of these 3 things equals 0, the whole thing equals 0. Okay? And now let's look at our last one. n minus 4 equals 0. When does that happen? Well, add 4 to both sides, when n is equal to 4. So I've got 3 solutions here. If n is equal to 0, 3, or 4, then this whole thing up here is true. Okay? So there were 3 solutions to this one. Nice. Nice job. Hey, let's keep rolling. Look at the next one. This one says solve the quadratic equation 2x squared plus 5x equals 12. Now, this is a little bit different. This one hasn't been factored yet. Okay? Now, the first thing that we have to do is get everything on one side. So I'm going to get 2x squared plus 5x, and I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. Minus 12 is equal to 0. Okay? Now, I can factor this thing into 2 parts, just like this section has asked us to do. Or I can use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula tells us what x equals, what x would be to solve this equation. Okay? You know, I think when I can look just to see which would be easier. Would it be easier for me to factor it, or would it be easier for me to use the quadratic formula? Well, this is just 2 and 1, I know that. This is -1 and 12, 1, -12, -2, 6, 2, -6, -3, 4, and 3, -4. Okay, now I'm going to stop right here. We'll pick up with the next video, but be thinking about that. Quadratic or factoring?